the enemy makes another move. He now takes God's people and causes it so that they now go down into Egypt land. 400 years, y'all. 4 centuries of brutal slavery. One generation after the other generation under the brutal taskmasters of pharaohs in Egypt. And they are tired and weary and worn and calling out for a savior. God makes a move. And his name is Moses. He raises up Moses so that at the right time, in the right way, he can send him to Pharaoh. And he says, go to Pharaoh, and Mo, I want you to tell him, let my people go. And so Pharaoh releases the children of Israel. And after 40 years wandering in the wilderness and 10 miraculous plagues that induced their release, they finally come through their wandering in the wilderness into the promised land that was always intended for them. God's people in the place of God, with the presence of God and the promises of God. Here they are in the promised land, and it looks like the battle for our souls is over. But then the enemy makes another move. In the book of Judges, it's all about God's people being introduced to idolatry. Listen to me. They do not turn their backs on the one true God. They just station their worship of God alongside their worship on the idols of the culture. And the duplicity of the people of God's allegiance is so devastating that by the time you get to the end of the book of Judges, the last line of the book of Judges says, and everybody was doing what was right in their own eyes. And it wasn't because God's people totally turned their backs. It's just because they weren't singularly devoted to the worship of God. This time it looks like for sure the enemy has won, but God has another plan. And her name is Ruth. And Ruth's life starts off pretty hard. She has some devastating losses and some grief, and her struggle is hard. She has to relocate to a place she doesn't feel comfortable, and she is unknown. But in that unfamiliar place, she ends up meeting at the right time a man named Boaz, who is her kinsman redeemer. And the two of them will come together, and they create a man named Jesse. And Jesse gives birth to Obed, and Obed gives birth to a little baby boy named David. And the enemy doesn't even know it. But with that one move, the checkmate is already on the way. And y'all, then the Old Testament closes, and there's 400 years of silence. God is sitting on one side of the cosmic chessboard. The enemy is sitting on the other side. And all of history is hanging in the balance. Everybody's waiting to see who's getting ready to make the next move. And then the Old Testament closes, and the New Testament opens. And God the Father makes a move the likes of which the enemy still to this day has never had a response. He puts on flesh and basically says, you know what, I'm going to come down here and take care of this myself. And he lives a perfect life, and he dies a substitutionary death, and then 3